This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you again.
It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, and we have a very interesting topic today. We're talking about dealing with deniers. We're collectively waking up to new truths. And how do we, who are awakening, deal with folks who are stubbornly denying the changes? I mean, this can drive us crazy. So stay tuned, because we're going to talk about ways to stay sane amidst the insanity of these times.
Now, you're going to talk about going deeper with them after this, with us, Joan?
Well, usually we can chat. Well, let's chat a little bit about the topic, and then I will go deeper with people after the show.
Oh, okay.
You'd mentioned it before.
Okay. Well, what do you notice? We talked about this yesterday when we were concepting this show, about there's the state of denial, there's people that have deniability, and then there's just people that deny, the deniers, right? They just don't seem to shift point, or actually they seem to wedge themselves in tighter, I think, sometimes. And we notice that when all this new information and new truths are showing up for people, and how do we keep our equilibrium? How do we allow people their viewpoints and keep ourselves together? That's what we thought we might want to express.
Yeah, that's what I'm noticing. I've made the mistake of starting to read the comments on Twitter and also on Facebook. So I'll go to a news notification on Facebook, and then I make the mistake of reading all the comments underneath. For me, it's more entertaining on Twitter. But it's just amazing how people have very fixed point of views that feel so skewed to my increasing evolutionary awareness of reality. And what it seems like to me is that people are, well, actually, you just mentioned this in some ways. It's like there's two different levels of denial. There's people who are in denial of things that are happening, and then there's people who are kind of aware, but they're distorting the truth to their own purposes. And it's becoming more and more intolerable to us as we're learning to stand in our own truth, or we're becoming more attuned to our own light as we're waking up, as we are woke. And so that's what we're going to be discussing some more about, how to handle this, because it really does make you crazy dealing with that.
Well, I think I appreciate that. Oh, okay. In seeing with fresh eyes, because that's what a new truth is. Truth to me is something that can change a lot. Feel very certain in one moment, and then in another, have information or a different approach. You go, oh, and how some people don't shift a lot. They have a lot at stake in staying the same. And for me, that's just an awareness of how I value being more full and being centered in, and not reacting in a place that a lockdown position provides. Oh, interesting. Got a lot of interesting things happening exposures.
I think that's a Chinese curse, is may you live in interesting times.
Yeah, could be. I think you have to be up to the challenge of it sometime. I was looking up the definition of denial, and it's really about it's not wanting to deal with something that challenges us and threatens us. So, and we all have denial mechanisms operating at all the time. And so it's just, this finds me a way. Yeah, I think we're okay. I love this energy of denial. I see it showing up in different ways. What are you noticing about it, Joan, as we try and do this radio show?
Well, what I'm noticing, I do also have to admit that even though I know that reality is created by consciousness, and you and I both know as we step into this reality, unusual things can appear and disappear, I still think there's structural themes that run throughout reality, and one of the ones that runs throughout reality for me is Mercury retrograde, so that there will be, technical problems and things like that, and communication problems, transportation problems that will be running throughout storylines as we're dealing with things. So, one of the things, there's two levels of things that drive me insane, but I think the one that is most irritating is when you're dealing with people who are directly lying to your face, and and everybody knows what they're saying is a lie, and then you have people, Miss Mary Sunshines, come on to say how wonderful and what a great job these people are doing, and it's like, no, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
The world's going to hell in a handbasket. What do you mean? And so, and I think it triggers a lot of people who grew up in circumstances that, traumatic circumstances where there was denial of things going on, elephants in the living room. But, so I'm going to leave us at that somewhat cliffhanger. That's an introduction of what we're going to be talking about. And, if you like this show and you're interested in this topic, you're interested in the stuff that we do, and you want to know more, go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, and you can find out about our past podcasts, our blogs, the meetups that Janet and I do in the Northwest, the sessions that we do via Zoom and Skype around the world. So we're available around the world. And you can get our social media links there too. We're on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. And Janet, you've got really interesting groups happening now that people can enroll in. Tell them about that.
Yes, something we started in the last month was everybody enjoys the groups that we do here at my home. But for those of you that are not local to us, but would really enjoy what we do, and of course you haven't been here, or maybe you have been and you haven't been able to be back with, I'm doing the groups using Zoom video conferencing now. On Thursday, I have two groups, one at 10 a.m. Pacific and one at 6 p.m. Pacific. And they're small groups. It's all visually oriented, live interactive, so it's not a webinar. You just don't sit there. This, you can feel the stuff going on. We'll just call it stuff because sometimes not having labels is really much more effective. And I invite you to contact me at janetbeyond.com directly, or a website, radio show website, Conscious Conversation with Janet, and find out the information. So please consider doing that. And it's a great way to get involved with other people all around the country, and we're all one, and you can feel it. And we just have a great time, lots of interaction.
Yeah, I'm really excited for you because I've been to your meetups in Portland there, and they'll knock you on your ass in a good way.
Yeah,
and you and I know that time and space doesn't really exist, and so energy work done long distance is really incredibly potent. So being a part of Janet's groups it will totally transform your life. I highly recommend them.
One-on-one. It's one-on-one in a sense of one is really big.
Right.
So it's pretty up close and personal work. So we find the value in that. And groups are one way we explore. Now, a lot of people don't like groups, right? They like more one-on-one. But the dynamic in a group is so amazing at times. So, we talk here and we're connected to all of you out there in this time and space, or in a different time and space, or in some sort of something. And you don't get the interaction necessary. So in the same way, it's an interaction. It's getting a lot of ground noise there. So what's going on here?
Hold those thoughts, and everybody stay in suspense, because we've got a lot more stuff to talk to you about dealing with deniers and crazy making people in situations. But we have to stop for a commercial break. So you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And stay tuned, because when we come back, we'll be talking about dealing with deniers.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan, and here with Janet, and we are talking about dealing with deniers.
In some shape or form. Well, I think another thing to be noticed is that the nature of a habituated thought is that it doesn't allow for something new to be noticed. So if you have a pattern of denial about a subject, you're never going to see that different information could be coming in about that, because you've entrained yourself to not notice it. And that makes it a particular challenge. So unless you're of the questioning sort, that you kind of do your stuff daily and noticing how you're reacting to information around you, you wouldn't even know that you're in a state of non-awareness, because it's your mind is just keeping on track. This is the way I'm going to think about this, and I don't see something. I think that's an interesting place.
Yeah, I think about the environments and the places that I have been in and the times I've lived in where you could say, I was in denial about something.
Mm-hmm.
And, then when the truth is finally revealed and you look back on it, you go, oh, wait a minute, there was this thing or that thing. But the person who was denying, who was not in denial, but they were setting up the state of denial for everybody else, was, so convincing in their truth lie that, totally pulled the wool over your head. So we've got a couple of, different things going on where we've got people who want to believe the truth. We have people who want to, so that kind of thing. So it's, how do we radiate our truth, or how do we stand in our truth when there's people around who are at a different awareness level, a different vibratory level, or who are very desperately trying to have everybody in a state of denial for their own, benefit?
Well, I think you got a couple of things that come to mind, and as our listeners are probably pretty aware of, is that there are times when denial is the best approach. Things happen and we are in a place where we can't be as effective in dealing with what's happening. So denial can serve us. What we're questioning is where denial is in play when it doesn't need to be. And it's, as anything, one of those great human abilities. And it's all about perspective. And there are things that we call truth and facts. And then there are those things that we call truth and facts that are my truth and facts. They're not your truth. And so you have this place, this intersection where all this meeting. And what I think is going on in the collective is where all this behavior that keeps us stuck in these patterns that none of us like. Nobody likes gun. I think all agree we don't like gun violence, but we seem to be different about how it shows up, and what's important, and blah blah blah. So there are those key things that we can say, yes, we all different, but we don't know how to get be different with it because we get stuck in this position. Something is that that's where the deniability, the change in your awareness, in your perception, how information comes up against life. And both of us appreciate open to realize. And that's it's back to me going, okay, they are in their perception and I'm in mine. And can mine be more inclusive of theirs? They're inclusive being appreciating that perspective and not having to resist, not having to resist that energy.
Yes. And I'm thinking about the people who are in denial for self-protection and who are believing their quote unquote truths. And it's a different quality to be around those folks because, you can be sympathetic to the pain that they're in and that they're trying to protect themselves. You can be gentle around them. And, but what to do about the people who are trying to sort of pull the wool over your eyes is a whole other kind of kettle of fish. And how I've dealt with it in the past really is to detach to the point of not interacting with them. But what do you do if what's happening is that they're trying to influence an entire group of people, and you're part of that group. I mean, how do you detach from that? I have a kind of an insight in that from the greater consciousness is how to navigate through this world in your own higher awareness or from your own higher vibration, and then reality reorganizes around you so that you're no longer being directly influenced by one person or another. And I've had people in my groups actually do these techniques where, it shifts their own state, and then the abusive boss that they were working with resigns. And it's not that they made that person resign, but that they stepped into a reality where the boss was resigning. And we're all doing this individually, or can do this individually in our own way. I've had fantasies of having, groups of people together, all stepping into the same universe, and maybe we can go back to a universe where it's all aligned and in more harmony than we're experiencing now. But that may not be the greater consciousness experience of it, because what always happens when I start to talk on this level is contradictions happen. And as greater consciousness, there's more neutrality about conflict. There's more neutrality about dealing with denial, because this is all just a fun game to greater consciousness. And so here you are in this experience, and it doesn't bother you that things seem to be going to hell in a handbasket, because consciousness isn't taking this as real.
I do notice that it's how we view our world. It's our core setups.
That was great, Janet. I totally agree with you. And it's just amazing that I just had this insight. And it's not really a big insight. Yes, it is. It's a big insight. And that, this world is an illusion, and as we are growing in consciousness, crazy things do end up showing up in the storyline, people acting unexpectedly, or situations being outside the box or absurd. And it's as a greater and greater reminder that this reality isn't real.
This isn't, huh?
Well, and here I go to contradict myself again, because as I explained to people about the world being an illusion, but physical reality is real, and it's meant to be physically experienced. So it's not like we're all living in a cartoon, but consciousness is creating it moment to moment, and therefore it's malleable, it's not fixed. So when you do a session with a client, or when you do your meetup groups, that change is possible, and regardless of what someone walks in with in their storyline, you can reframe the story, you can collapse the situation into something different. See what I mean?
Yeah, we do it all the time.
Yeah, but what we've got, as you're walking around, or if you listen to the news, you get into a fixed reality state, and either it's a fixed reality state of everything's hunky-dory, or you're in a fixed reality state that everything is terrible, and it's not, and it can't change because you're locked into it. I'll have to say, here's another aspect of it, is that part of people getting stuck in resistance is expecting it to be different. Well, it should be this way, and it's not being this way, and then you're locked into it.
There's a feeling of helplessness in all of this, I think. We can't change other people, but we want to. We desperately want to change other people. And I think that's we want to know that we're right. I mean, these are all these human qualities and desires and things we're kind of probably wired for, is in the sense of community and attachment, is that what we're attached to it brings out the best in us, keeps us safe and warm, and we can trust in it. And what's coming up is how all of this has been below surface, and in this time of opening up to strong emotional states, which is getting stirred. So everything is triggering emotional responses. That's what is all connected in there. And, it's not just one kind of emotion. There's shame, and there's frustration, and there's this whole mix of stuff. So when we find someone who seems to us to be rigid when all we've done is ever give or whatever, there's just this natural trying to deal with it. So we're all in the right place and time. I think that's important for people to appreciate, is that what seems to be distressing is really de-stressing. It is taking out the stress, and what you're doing is you're seeing how stressed you are. Maybe that's kind of a different approach about it.
What I see is we're going through like a spiritual remodel, and as greater light comes into the world and into each of our individual physical, mental, emotional spaces, it's like turning on the lights and realizing where you haven't dusted. It's like going through a big spring clean, but we're actually doing something even greater than that, because we're doing an expansion, a remodel. We're making our physical, energetic forms are going through an upgrade. And so if you're in denial about calling that change in, or if you're in denial about that you are your greater self, and so it's really you that ordered the remodel, you're going to be acting like, the landlord turned my water off, the landlord, tore my roof off, or, these things are happening to me and I'm not in agreement with it. And if you shift your perspective to being the greater consciousness that is initiating all these changes, then you can actually be amused by the stuff going on. You can be, watching the news, eating popcorn, waiting for the next installment.
Right. Which I must say, and that's where I find myself with this every night. It's like, oh, what happened today? And I was sitting there on Sunday going, oh, nothing ever happens. Oh, no, that's not true. On the weekends, a lot of things happen. Before we used to always have a different feel from the Monday, Friday news. I think there's just appreciate yourself. Appreciate that you feel different. Appreciate that people are at different places with this. And there can be the proselytizer, right? When you get something new and then you're all excited and you want everybody to know it kind of energy. That really seems to be a powerful dynamic that we have. You get the light and you want everyone else to see it, and they may never, or some of them may already know it, or, there's all these different ways to relate to your awareness and, or what you perceive as your awareness, or what you formed as your awareness. And that's the malleable energy that consciousness is, that reality is we're fine-tuning that all the time. And it just takes a little bit of something, and whoa, everything can change. And sometimes we don't know what to do with that. And then you have those around you that are reacting to you, and they don't know what to do with it, because they are like, no, I don't see it that way. And now you're challenging them. And not that you are challenging them. They perceive it as a challenge. They perceive it as a threat. They perceive it as something to react to, as opposed to stopping and choosing to respond to it. And so all this is at play right now. And I think for some, it's just about sitting still. Kind of integrating and letting all the hoopla show up, see that as part of it, and then just go to where your new location is within yourself. And you may find that you change those that you hang with. You may find that that everything around you in that new reality is not going to be the same. And some have attachment about that. And so you have to reclassify. You have to allow yourself fluidity in reorganizing how you relate to someone. And someone that you had a very certain dynamic with now is a little askew because of in your shift. So that's a challenge for all of us.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And I like how you made it sound so much more gentle than we're mostly experiencing it.
Well, isn't it the truth of it, though? I mean, we've gotten so polarized. And so you feel, well, I'm not that, so I have to be this. And that's the blindness, and that's the denial that's in there, is that just a minute, in duality, it's all about polarity. There are distinctions everywhere along that medium between the two of those points. And as we embrace more that if you're this, you have to accept the whole party line kind of thinking, which is stupid. It just makes it easier. But it isn't about easy, unless it is. It's about speaking for oneself. How many times have we felt compromised in saying, oh, I just want that part, but that means I got to take the whole part. I don't really need the whole part. I just need that part. But you got to go because that's what you want. We do it in politics all the time, the way they negotiate laws and things like that, putting their little add-ins, So it's something that we do easily and effortlessly. And once again, we're just bringing back to our humanity. As consciousness, we get to observe ourselves as humanity in a different way and go, all right, this got me into this fix. What am I going to do now? So, yeah, it's perhaps a different approach.
Yes. We live in interesting times. We really need to be creative. We really need to do different approaches. And the thing I've also found with this consciousness shift that we're going through is that it's not about systems or formulas anymore. It's not about a set series of techniques that, rub your belly, pat your head, and then poof, the genie appears kind of thing. Or poop. We're seeing lots of poop appear. Tell me about it. But it's more about, I find operating in this new reality, it's about being improvisational and being able to pivot in the moment. Maybe having a toolkit of different things to try out, but I will find that I'll get comfortable with a certain way of reacting to something, and that's a pretty surefire way to know that the next time it shows up, you have to do something different.
Well, I really have become, I'm aware of how I don't like something perhaps personally, but as myself as consciousness, I get it, and those are two distinct viewing points. And I so much more appreciate myself as consciousness because then I get to watch me having my daily experience here. And I realize that from that place of non-attachment, but as creative energies, what is it I'm looking to create? So I get to be out here having my day-to-day interactions and my experiences, and I'm in my environment, and I'm still always tied into kind of overseeing that person, that self, that identity, and being user-friendly with it. And I think that's, what's become more important to me is that in all this questioning, in all this different ways of looking things, there are all the different voices that have their approach, that have a different way of a subject and how to handle it. And then out of that comes, oh yeah, I like that idea. And I didn't have that idea. That's a great idea. Let's do it. Try it that way. Let's do it that way. And, that's what's shaken out here, is that creativeness that we all have as consciousness showing up and saying, let's try maybe something different. So.
Yes. And, give me just off the top of your head. You've been talking about
I'm out of my head, but okay.
Right. Somewhere floating above your head is, well, you see, now that's another way of being able to, that's another way of responding to what is in the world, is to become so expansive that you just leisurely float through it. And then it doesn't drive you crazy because, you're really in this wonderful state of heart-centered awareness that is very much like being on a big rubber raft floating down the river with your Mai Tais. I mean, that's what it feels like when we go into that energy together. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little harder for people who have to go work at the city of Seattle or sitting in there listening to
that's what really
cubicles,
Yeah, those are the people that really need it, right? They need what this is about. I've never been one to just sit on the pillow and meditate and, life is bliss, because I think that works on one level, but it's about taking that bliss and putting it into an action. And you participate in life. And I have no problem with being in my body. That can still be a mysterious place at times for me. But being out of it is not helpful to me anymore. And so if I'm going to commit to this full body experience, that means I can think and I feel and I feel emotionally and physically and what it is about being alive. I'm committed to being alive. And I think you have to get really clear on the quality you want that life, because we do appreciate what you were talking about, that how you set it up, that malleable, we don't use that word enough and we need to be embracing it more, I think, that reality is a sense of flow. It flows what you think on what you think. So how you connect your thinking and your feeling and your projections dictates what's showing up. So we all wanted something different. And I think there's that place in consciousness and in humanity that says, well, if we keep going like this isn't going to work. And so we've reached that time and place where there's enough dynamic all over the world, because now we're a global feeling as opposed to just our neighborhood, that dynamics are different. And this is where we're at. And so how to stay the course and realize, okay, things are bumpy out there and that's good. And it doesn't really have to be bad. It can be exciting. And if I start to change my anxiety into excitement, if I start to relabel in that malleable quality the reality is, stuff can happen differently. I can be different. And you can be different. Because I don't need you to show up the way I had you showing up before. Interesting.
Yes. Very interesting. And there's something you said that I started to reflect on, how reality feels differently for me. Oh, I know, it's about being in the body or out of the body. Mm-hmm. And my old techniques were all about being in the body, and it was a form of grounding to the center of the earth where you would cord mm-hmm. the earth. And it was like, so you energetically kind of were in your body and you were cording the earth. And I've since realized that it was a little bit like dial-up, using a cord, and that you can't access today's cosmic internet using dial-up. And our devices are functioning really well without being corded. And so it's a different reality, and I can be fully in my body and present and multidimensionally aware simultaneously. And it's hard to describe, but what I find is the old techniques bring me into an older, denser way of experiencing reality. Mm-hmm. And my new techniques it's like night and day. And I believe that we're all evolving to this awareness naturally. But those of us that are still experiencing it through dial-up, one, they're accessing their spiritual information in less effectively than they could. But two, they're also feeling the discomfort of the world and its extremities, that in an extreme way, actually is what I meant. You're feeling the discomfort in an extreme way that doesn't have to be. And what I also notice is that when I am in alignment with my greater spiritual perspective, then I don't take those personalities seriously.
That's a good way to be.
Yeah, and I just realized that I wanted to remind people about, if you're interested in this conversation or if you like the stuff we're talking about and you want to know more about us, go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And you can listen to the podcasts there. You can read our blogs that we write about this. You can go find out about our meetups in Portland, Tacoma, and Seattle. And you can also get the links to us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube there as well. And Janet, you've got something special going on right now with your groups.
Right. Our Fuzzy Photons playground groups, and those are running on Thursday using Zoom audio, video conferencing. Yeah, so some kind of connection there. So it's like being in person. It's live, interactive, in small groups, and we work our stuff. And we take all this that we're noticing and how it's in your life showing up and what could be different, and being in that state of where it is different and where you can go back to that. So those are on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. Pacific. And so contact me at janetb@janetandbeyond.com, or certainly at our website, radio website, at consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, and get all the facts.
All right, we have to take a quick commercial break, but you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and when we come back, we'll be talking more about dealing with deniers.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and Janet is coming to you from Portland.
The sun's nice. It's out. It's a good day, guys.
The sun came out as we were talking, and I took that as a good sign. The sun came out. It was like, oh, we were overcast before, so there's something symbolic about that.
Well, and if it's snowing where you are, it's still a good day. Okay, right. It's just, that's where the viewpoint gets hard. We challenge ourselves. If we've got it set up that the world is a yucky place, then no matter what evidence comes in, you can't get it. And I think that's the key to this, is where I think people appreciate something different if they believe it can be true and real for them. And so often I hear clients who say, I don't do that for me though. I do it for others. And so let's pay attention, people. Pay attention out there. What is it that's bothering you? And being able to look at it and go, oh, okay. And then I'm all right.
Yeah. I think you said this, but I chime in saying the same thing with different words, is that, people have different experiences and different preferences. So somebody else would love snow and, you and I not so much. But, and somebody loves
or little mounts. I love
small mounts.
Go visit.
Okay, me, not so much. And, I've lived in places where they get an average of 100 inches of snow a year, but I also have lived in places where, the average temperature in the wintertime is 87. That's kind of more my cup of tea nowadays. So, people might be perfectly happy, living in the desert, and other people rather live in the rainforest. And in terms of people's awarenesses and how they express themselves in the world, that part of this evolution is actually consciousness evolution, is holding a bigger space for everybody to have a different experience. Oh, and where you're finding the distortion or discomfort is for people trying to force everybody else to have that their experience is the only way to have it. And that's where that's where things are going out of alignment, where it's not allowing for the expansion or the diversity or the what's for the greater benefit of the whole.
I think you nailed it really well there.
Oh, good. Well, then I'll let that be our final sentence, and I will let people know, if you like our conversations, if you want to know more, if you want to learn more, go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. We have all of our podcasts are there, and you can listen to these topics forever. You can read about the different things that we do, and you can also you can find out about our meetups where you can come see us in person and have amazing transformative experiences, and find out about our sessions and link to our social media on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube videos. Lots and lots of YouTube videos.
Lots of YouTube. It's all good stuff. And I love your Mystic Minutes. You always got prevalent, what is the word? Relevant information going. So, some days, people, you know how some days you're more on than others, and you're still on, you're just in a different on. Right. I think that's what today's about. And
we're not saying that sometimes you're more on because that's somebody else, but sometimes we're more on than off.
Well, you have to be willing to own it all, right? It makes life interesting anyway. So
stay tuned, because next week will be a completely different experience.
Yeah. Well, things keep changing, but I think what we comment on is that evolutionary experience. This is so much available for people to tune in, and they are. Look at all the people around the world that get involved in thinking more about bigger things.
And I will say that as we come out of denial and into greater light, it's actually a relief to know the truth.
Mm-hmm. It is, isn't it? Yeah.
So with that, you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here to Janet. And stay tuned next week, same time, same channels.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a great week.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.